Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us from wherever you may be this afternoon. We are live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour, and coming up, government says they have received $9 million to inject into tourism as they seek to boost the sector, which has taken a hit due to coronavirus. We'll bring you highlights from the latest press conference. And this afternoon, we head to the drinking spots to talk about nightclubs, parts of the country which remain closed despite the ease of the restrictions. We'll also talk about the effects of alcohol on your immune system. 11 years after the June 4 uprising, former President Rawlings commemorates the day, calling on the Electoral Commission to listen to divergent views and asking for support for the EC at the same time. It's actually 41 years, not 11. And we'll bring you details from that virtual commemoration as the former president shows off his new hairstyle. We're live on your digital TV, also on DSTV channel 421, on GoTV channel 144, and on YouTube. Send your thoughts through to us on WhatsApp via 0541 01 9009. Let's get started. Now, the tourism industry has lost in excess of $170 million just in the first month of the coronavirus outbreak in Ghana. The crunch has hit hard on bars, nightclubs, and other such businesses which are still restricted. Owners in this space who have no other business are simply looking forward to government for some sort of an urgent bailout. Today we're going to speak to industry players and experts on how they have been affected and how they can bounce back once the restrictions are lifted. Shortly we'll be connecting with Reggie Rockstone, nightclub operator. Ivy is a bar operator right here in Kokomlemle, and Jeff is a pub operator at Mile 7. The president of the Tourism Federation herself will be with us. First though, Tourism Minister Barbara Oting-Gyesi at today's press briefing.
Tourism, hospitality, and arts sector has been hardly hit by this COVID-19 pandemic because we all know that the sector thrives on public gathering. And to overcome the pandemic, we cannot gather. So the sector has really suffered. The initial assessment that we undertook indicated that for the first 4 months, between March and June 2020, we are going to have a loss of about 171 million loss registered to the industry or to the country because of the lack of operation of the industry. So that is the initial loss that we have assessed, but we believe that as we go forward and we do further assessments, we can realize the full impact of COVID-19 on the sector. But we also believe that as the government gives some support to the operators in the sector and they begin also to operate, we may be able to minimize this impact to some extent, even if
Tourism Minister Barbara Oting-Gyesi. Now here's our WhatsApp number on your screen. So why don't you join us if you operate in this industry, if you have some perspective to share on the subject. Now before we begin our conversation, let's bring you the Tourism Minister's plan for the revival of the sector.
Devastating effects of the COVID-19 on the sector, government has introduced interventions to ameliorate the impact on businesses, and the tourism and hospitality sector is also going to benefit from these interventions. For instance, the stimulus package of 600 million Ghana cedis through the NBSSI to stimulate economic activity of businesses in the SME sector, as well as the $3 billion facility for larger businesses, will also benefit the operators in the tourism and hospitality sector. Also, the ministry, under the Ghana Tourism Development Project, which is a World Bank funded project, an amount of $9 million has been earmarked for interventions to boost the tourism industry. And this will be disbursed $4 million to support tourism sites and destinations development, and $5 million for tourism enterprise support for SMEs within the tourism value chain. His Excellency the President has also constituted an interministerial committee to assess the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism and hospitality sector specifically, and propose a stimulus package to alleviate the impact of the pandemic and protect jobs and ensure the industry recovers post-COVID-19. In order to further support the recovery of the tourism and hospitality sector, the President, in his address the last Sunday, eased certain restrictions on the operations of the sector, and we hereby provide the guidelines in that respect for compliance by all operators. In respect of the food and beverage industry, comprising the restaurants, chop bars, snack bars, highway rest stops, fast food and coffee and tea shops, they may operate with the following guidelines: the display of no mask, no entry signage, and ensure that all patrons are wearing masks on entry, mandatory wearing of masks and protective clothing by kitchen staff, provision of soap and running water and hand sanitizers and disinfectant gels with paper towels at public areas, and the guests should be reminded when entering and leaving to wash their hands as well as use the sanitizers. They are also required to limit the number of guests for dining to 50% of the current carrying capacity of the venue to ensure that adequate spacing for seating and maintaining social distancing of 1 meter can be adhered to. Regular disinfection of surfaces must be done. Where it is inappropriate to use bleach, for instance, for surfaces such as telephones, remote control equipment, door handles, buttons on elevators, etc., alcohol-based sanitizers with 70% and above alcohol must be used. When you have to undertake a buffet-style service, you must ensure to have staff at the food station to serve the guests. You must limit communal handling of serving ladles, and you must change the ladles more frequently, always leaving these items in separate, registered 100% occupancy. Arts and craft dealers at our arts center also reported a doubling of their sales in 2019 compared to the year 2018, as well as our car rental services, which registered increased patronage. However, the gains have been eroded by the coronavirus pandemic. In view of the devastating effects of the COVID-19 on the sector, government has introduced interventions to ameliorate the impact on businesses, and the tourism and hospitality sector is also going to benefit from these interventions. For instance, the stimulus package of 600 million Ghana cedis through the NBSSI to stimulate economic activity of businesses in the SME sector, as well as the $3 billion facility for larger businesses, will also benefit the operators in the tourism and hospitality sector. Also, the ministry, under the Ghana Tourism Development Projects, which is a World Bank funded project, an amount of $9 million has been earmarked for interventions to boost the tourism industry. And this will be disbursed $4 million to support tourism sites and destinations development, and $5 million for tourism enterprise support for SMEs within the tourism value chain. His Excellency the President has also constituted an interministerial committee to assess the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism and hospitality sector specifically, and propose a stimulus package to alleviate the impact of the pandemic and protect jobs and ensure the industry recovers post-COVID-19. In order to further support the recovery of the tourism and hospitality sector, the President, in his address the last Sunday, eased certain restrictions on the operations of the sector, and we hereby provide the guidelines in that respect for compliance by all operators. In respect of the food and beverage industry, comprising the restaurants, chop bars, snack bars, highway rest stops, fast food and coffee and tea shops, they may operate with the following guidelines: the display of no mask, no entry signage, and ensure that all patrons are wearing masks on entry, mandatory wearing of masks and protective clothing by kitchen staff, provision of soap and running water and hand sanitizers and disinfectant gels with paper towels at public areas, and the guests should be reminded when entering and leaving to wash their hands as well as use the sanitizers. They are also required to limit the number of guests for dining to 50% of the current carrying capacity of the venue to ensure that adequate spacing for seating and maintaining social distancing of 1 meter can be adhered to. Regular disinfection of surfaces must be done. Where it is inappropriate to use bleach, for instance, for surfaces such as telephones, remote control equipment, door handles, buttons on elevators, etc., alcohol-based sanitizers with 70% and above alcohol must be used. When you have to undertake a buffet-style service, you must ensure to have staff at the food station to serve the guests. You must limit communal handling of serving ladles, and you must change the ladles more frequently, always leaving these items in separate.
Nightclub owners, however, did not receive good news as their businesses are to remain shut. Reggie Rockstone, well-known Ghanaian on the showbiz scene, also operates a pub, a night spot, and he joins us on Zoom right now. Reggie, it's always a pleasure. Good to see you. There you are. Yes, we can hear you quite clearly, Reggie. It's very good to see you as always. I see you are on your delivery route.
No, I'm done. I'm done for the day. I'm doing Sandra Kobias is the last drop off. Sexy watching.
Lucky Sandra. Now, tell us how the news has been received by you and your team, knowing that you can't operate your nightclubs just yet.
Well, first of all, we are so blessed. I mean, we have a very unique story because we kind of knew that COVID was about to hit the fan. So we psychologically, we were prepared. Also, me and my family literally did our own lockdown before the lockdown even came. So we were like a week ahead of you, or two. And also, just around that time, I was going through my whole spirituals, and a lot of my prayers was about me selling alcohol. It was clashing with my spirituality. So God answers, works in mysterious ways. One of my comrades makes a dig troll comment about me selling watches, and my watches just blows up. And you tell me that's not job. And so we don't even need to sell liquor no more. The watch, I mean, we're moving as much as 600 packs a day now. It's crazy. Wow. So it's a success story, but Olua is involved. And so I don't have to, I'm not selling booze no more. I'm strictly all about the watching, and this Rux watching to the world. As I keep telling everyone, I'm trying to franchise. I want to be bigger than KFC, all of the above. So I'm on a whole different story now. Yes.
Well, that's fascinating. So basically what we're hearing, and I'm guessing this will be news to many Ghanaians, but what we're hearing from you is that your spot is not going to be reopening. Is that right?
If we do, it will strictly be for you to pick up your food, your watching, like we're doing now. We run a delivery service right now, and that's really good. And also, here's another angle to our story. We have become some type of a charity gig now, because tons of people just ordering food from us to go feed the homeless, feed orphanages, feed street people. So we got a double jammy now. It's crazy. That's God's work. God works in mystic ways. So we have folks from New York, from UK, from Ghana, ordering as much as 300, 200 every day. I mean, you check on my Instagram, Reggie Rockstone 711, you see me feeding all kinds. Today, we just fed 150 street kids. Yesterday, we fed another 100 in Tema. I mean, it's crazy. So I'm in a whole new department now.
Now, tell me, Reggie, because even with your Wache business, there is an impact of COVID-19. There is a need for enhanced hygiene practices, and you are doing delivery. So you're going into people's homes. Talk to me about that. How are you managing that aspect of the delivery of your service and staying safe?
We were kind of prepped up before COVID hit the fan. And remember, my wife is a medical doc. So, you know, my house is like, it's Fort Knox when it comes to this COVID. And so, you know, I'm masked up. Listen, I use so much hand sanitizer, my hand is dry. You know, and yeah, you know, but of course I'm human. So every now and then I might go somewhere, people want to hug you, or, you know, because on Tuesdays I do corporate deliveries where I go myself to drop off the food. And sometimes, Charlie, people just want to hug you. I mean, what can you do? So I leave it to Jaja. But so far, so good. We all been blessed and we're safe. Yes.
That's great. Now, Reggie, stay with us. I want to bring in another pub operator, Ivy Minda, who runs a pub right here in Kokomlemle. Now, Ivy, hopefully you can hear us now. We are very curious. We want to know, what do you think of the new restrictions that the ministry has just announced, the tourism ministry has just announced?
I think it's very good, but I want to know if they could do something about it, because some of us only sell. Can you hear me? Yes,
we're listening.
Yeah, some of us only sell the drinks, like the mini packs. We sell only the drinks to feed our home. So I want to know if the government can do something about allowing us to operate the small mini bars, so with some measures or something.
So at the moment, are you doing any business at all?
At this moment, I do fried yam and chicken attached the bar, but we don't open the bar. We only do the yam and chicken.
So how much money are you losing? If you estimate, how much money was your bar making per month? And how much do you think you've lost since COVID-19 brought about these sanctions and measures?
For instance, I was using my bar to pay my workers because the yam and chicken is not really moving like the drinks I saw here. And I have 3 to 4 workers here.
24 workers. So you are making quite a lot of money from the bar. So is it sustainable if they keep the lockdown in place for another 3 months, for example? Will your business survive?
No, my business is totally going to collapse.
Wow. So have you started thinking about that? Have you started planning for that possibility? What's your plan B?
Not yet, but we thank God for everything. Not yet, but we are still on the yam and chips business. It's moving a little, but if you're supposed to operate the pub, attach the drink, it could have been better.
Now, Ivy, you made a suggestion. You talked about wanting to operate a mini bar. Explain to us, what is that concept? What exactly were you thinking of doing, if you are permitted?
The mini bars, like for instance, me, I don't get people up to 50 at the same time. Let's say, assuming those who get people like 15 at a time, 10 at a time, or 5 at a time.
So you're thinking that perhaps if the bars with smaller capacity can be allowed to operate, that's what you're thinking?
Yes.
But would you be able to control
Exactly. Yes.
the public? Maybe today you have only 10 at a time, but if they allow you to open and you are the only pubs that are open, are you not concerned that perhaps people will rush in and you will have more than you've ever had?
To me, I'm not really sure, because we will have a measure and then I know people will understand.
Thank you for that, Ivy. Let me reconnect with Reggie, but we also have on the line Emmanuel Frimpong, who's the Executive Secretary of the Ghana Tourism Federation. Hello, Mr. Frimpong. Just before we come to you, though, Reggie, generally, because you play this important role of being a social commentator as well. So generally, even though you don't foresee these measures affecting your pub business, how do you think the tourism, or how do you assess the tourism industry's handling of the sector since the outbreak of this virus?
I mean, brother, it is what it is. We're in survival mode now. Survival mode is, me switching from what I was on to now pushing my watch here to the extreme. Of course, I had leverage because of my quote-unquote celeb stats, or have you, but you need to, it's all hands on. Also be also be a yeding. What's I say? See, yet make I say, yeah, the BBS share will be inside. It's on everybody. So, whatever corner Patapaa said, your one corner that you're in, you need to make it work. And that's just what I'm saying. So we move with the flow and just, be prayerful and be safe and, make do what we have.
If there's anybody who can turn Patapaa lyrics into philosophy, that's Reggie Rockstone.
Yep, in my one corner.
Now, Emmanuel Frimpong is the Executive Secretary of the Ghana Tourism Federation. Mr. Frimpong, your members largely are affected by these newly announced measures. How are they taking the news?
Thank you, Kwejo, and good afternoon to your cherished listeners. I think it is very difficult for our members at this point in time. As we are all aware, the industry is the most hardly hit industry. And if you look at the measures that we are putting in place, not much has been done We have had the minister speaking today, and we are looking forward to engaging the ministry and GTA because we think not much engagement has gone on, and members continue to suffer. And just some few minutes ago, the Greater Accra Regional Chairman for Ghana Hotels Association was in the office, and he told me that since last week, he has only made 7 city sales, 7 cities. Wow. And some haven't made even a city sales. So members are really going through some tough time. We have had some measures that the government has put in place. It's helping a little, but I think there's more that we need to do. We need to engage the members at this point in time because we don't even know how they are being affected. So we need to engage more. We need to engage more. I think the talking is becoming too much. We need to engage more and get on the job.
So do you have proposals of your own? Do you have suggestions of your own of what your members could do to save their businesses without putting the public in danger?
Yes, we have. About 4 weeks ago, we had a joint committee together with GTA, and we put a document that we think we should all look at it. As I speak with you, it is at the cabinet level. We are waiting for them to come back to us and look at the roadmap, what we need to do. But what we keep encouraging our members to do at this point in time is to look deep into themselves and find ways that they can help themselves, because like Reggie said, we have to help ourselves at some point, even though we continue to wait on the government to come in and support us. But we also have to think outside the box and look at what is it that we can do to help ourselves. Of course, we know that at this point, some of the businesses are not going to survive. There's no two ways about that. We have businesses that are already collapsed. It is going to be extremely difficult for them to come back. But the few that we have still existing, we need to see how best we can support them.
Now, you're right. There are businesses that have already been forced to shut down. Others are staring bankruptcy in the face. But the truth is that a lot of this is not in our hands. A lot of this is also influenced by global activities like the shutdown of borders and the stopping of flights and so forth, which is affecting the tourism industry in a large way. So have you put a clock on it as a federation? Have you put a clock on the survival of the tourism industry, especially those that depend so heavily on international traffic? Do you know the date by which we will be facing a collapse of the tourism sector if nothing changes?
We don't have a date. As a matter of fact, we haven't carried out any survey and done any research to be specific. But what we are getting from UNWTO, that is the United Nations World Tourism Organization, is that it will take between 18 months to about 8 months before we get back on our feet as an industry. But it will also depend on country by country what authorities put in place. So we are encouraging the government to look at domestic tourism and probably intra-Africa tourism. That will be the shortest way to get back on our feet. If we are going to rely on international arrivals, then probably we are looking at somewhere between 18 months to 34 or 36 months, which will not help us. So we need to begin to look at domestic tourism, intra-Africa tourism. What is it that we can do ourselves to get back on our feet?
Now, Reggie, you have big dreams, you know, for your Wachi business. You want to franchise. You want to turn into the McDonald's of Africa. At the moment, however, you know, with the restrictions of COVID-19, businesses are being forced to think small. How do you position your big global ambition in these days of limit and restraint and, well, in these smaller days, how do you dream big?
Well, it's only a dream that comes to a sleeper, if you know what I'm saying. So for me, my dream is already in effect, wide-eyed open. Example is, wache is a Ghanaian dish. I mean, you remember all the hoopla about jollof rice. Well, wache definitely has no contestants from no other country because this is definitely ours.
Yeah.
So I'm starting from home. So this is where I'm beginning. Now the next thing is that all human beings gotta eat. That's a sure banker. I don't care who you are, you have to eat. So I think we're in a safer spot. Also, when I look at the units, the kind of business coming in, I mean, yes, the booze, the alcohol, the drinks, the pub, that was cute. But today, against my spirituality, and I think I'm gonna stick with my watching and do for watching what I did with Hip Life. Just make it blow up. That's it.
Well, if anybody can, you can, Reggie. Thank you so much.
I will in him. Before I go,
yes.
Here's another thing. I really can't see COVID and alcohol moving together. Get it off your mind. That'd be judgment. So even if it wasn't about my spirituality, it would just be sensible for me to move in the other way because come on now. If any COVID, it just doesn't work, So I would be irresponsible to think that I would come back and reopen my pub and social distance. Joe, what's the matter? So let's find other ways to move out there. But that's it. 10 years in the game. I think I'm ready to sell some food, and I'm doing pretty well right now.
Reggie, we look forward to watching you take over the world. Thank you very much for your time with us. That's Reggie Rockstone, former operator of a bar. Let's wrap up with Mr. Emmanuel Frimpong, and let's look to the future real quick. Mr. Frimpong, you've got the members, and they obviously are a constituency. Do you intend to bring pressure to bear on opinion leaders and government to sway things in your favor and ease some of these restrictions for your members? Is that the ultimate goal?
Not necessarily bringing pressure on authorities, but we want to engage them more. This morning, the minister mentioned some package that is supposed to be for the industry. And we want to sit down with them and look at what are the modalities, because often you hear a certain amount and the money is disbursed and you don't know where the money goes. So we want to engage them, make sure that our members benefit from the set amount, not that it goes somewhere that it shouldn't go. That is what we want to do going forward.
Where should it go, though? I mean, as a collective, which businesses do you think need this money first?
Well, if you look at our federation, we have about 30 trade associations. We have the hotels, the chefs, the tour guides, tour operators, various restaurants, about 30 different trade associations. So we need to look at which of them, because if you look at the tour operators and the tour guides, they rely more on international arrivals. So even if you give them money, certain amount of money now, they might still want to rely on people coming in from outside. But the hotels, the restaurants, what can we do to help them to get back on their feet? What is it that we are supposed to do so that people begin to think of staycation? People begin to think of patronizing hotels, not looking up to international arrivals. So we need to sit down, probably do a research or a survey and know which of the associations or which of our members will need immediate help, support, and what is the type of support that we are supposed to give them. For some of them, probably what they need now is retraining, capacity building, something. We need to sit down and find out what is it, but definitely the money should come to the industry.
Emmanuel Frimpong, thank you so much for your time. Mr. Frimpong, of course, is the Executive Secretary of the Ghana Tourism Federation. Now, media managers in this country are being urged to partner with telecom companies to offset their rising data costs as they resort to the use of video conferencing app Zoom in the wake of coronavirus pandemic. Now, the industry has had to adapt quickly to new methods in adherence to social distancing protocol. The General Manager of City FM and City TV, Bernard Avele, says innovations like Zoom have helped the industry.
If I can bring 4 guests from all over the world via Zoom for my TV show, why on earth do they need to drive and come at 9 p.m. post-COVID? It doesn't make sense. Because COVID has actually helped me have better panelists. Because in the past, I thought people wanted them to be seen physically. But now, with internet, I can see them from anywhere. So that's one of the things. Yeah. The other point is about leanness. COVID won't happen every year. Yeah. And not everybody will plan for another COVID. But it's helped people to reassess themselves about the model they are running. So there's going to be a lot of thinking about, do I really need 6 people to do this when 1 person can do it?
Exactly.
And now that initially would affect jobs. But when a business is efficient and can produce the same result with fewer people, it frees up other resources to do other things, and society is better. Third point, the human being is actually the center of everything. So whereas, yes, people may be sacked, all the things we are doing, it's people that are doing it, right? And so investing in the skills of your people, okay? So you have journalists who can do data crunching, work with Excel, because some of the figures, you have to analyze it, okay? Who can do infographics and things. So we realize that people need to be, we need to invest more in people, because computers won't make meaning for you in the sense in which people can. So that's another point. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's but it's also scary.
Now, on her part, Acting General Manager of GH1 TV, Nana Namwa, is proposing media houses partner with the telcos. Here's why.
Sometimes twice a week, others were coming 3 times a week, you know. It was working to a point until the lockdown was, you know, lifted. Yeah. And then we had to review and get more people to come in and help. But even with that, we've still had to tell people to stay at home because we can't pick everyone up every day. Because people live in Pam. Right. You know, and you have to pick them at dawn. They come to work and they're already tired, and you expect them to close at 5 o'clock. They're already tired. So we had to review those numbers. For producers of certain segments, like the producer of the international news segment, you don't have to be here. Just stay at home and call the shots from home. You have producers who will just stay at home and say, oh, this is a story angle I think we should look at. They don't necessarily have to be here. The assignments editor is not required to be here every day because they have a WhatsApp platform. So you just load the assignments there for reporters, and that's all right. So yes, we've had people working from home. Thankfully, there is Zoom as well. So you don't always have to go out and interview people as long as they will download the Zoom app. But even that has become quite a challenge for some people. You know, download it, and they don't think, why do I have to download the Zoom app?
We'll come to the technological bit. But still on the issue of working from home, some have complained that it's not very effective because you can't really supervise what they're doing. Have you had to experience that as well?
No, not at all. I mean, they deliver as though they were in the office. Yeah, they deliver, you know, even ahead of time. Way ahead of time, and I'm beginning to wonder, I mean, I'd rather have them at home because when they are here, they're probably distracted. You know, this person is saying that, that person is doing that. But when they are home, they meet their deadlines. You know, Redwan, for instance, for all the period that he stayed at home, he was delivering way ahead of time. You know, so I just thought that, Redwan, maybe you should stay at home.
So do you foresee this as something that we could be adopting going forward? Because we really don't know when the COVID is is going to end? In fact, the health experts say that it's come to stay. Yeah, so.
I think to a certain extent, you know, in the media, we have crazy hours, crazy hours. You have people coming in at 6 a.m. and they are staying on till 8 p.m. I think this is just a reminder to the managers and the media owners that, you know, we should give people a break. Yes, we want the information, but we overwork people in the media. We overwork them and we underpay them. So we should give people a bit of a break. You know, you don't necessarily have to be here for 8, 9, 10 hours.
Exactly.
You could kill some 4, 5 hours at home, and they still deliver. I think it's an eye opener. It's come with a huge cost to businesses, but it's also opened our eyes to so many things, things that hitherto we could have done to save, you know, a lot of money for the business. So it's been an eye opener, and I think going forward, I will want more people to spend more time at home as long as they're delivering. And fortunately, my team has been delivering. Those at home are delivering every day. They haven't given me a reason to complain, except that when I come in here and I see an empty room, I miss people. You know, so the last time I had to tweak the roaster a bit, and oh no, but it was working. Yeah, you have to come, you know, because I was missing people. But I realized that I wasn't here for my interest. You know, it's for the good of the company.
Great. So you're talking about technology and the use of Zoom. Right now, a lot of media houses are resorting to Zoom. In fact, I personally didn't even know Zoom existed before the pandemic.
You're not tech savvy. Let that be on record.
Okay, so I'm not tech savvy. I'm getting there. So people are resorting to Zoom, and it's quite effective. But there's also the complaints that, you know, you're spending a lot more on data. So it's also additional cost to the company.
Absolutely. I think this is where I feel the media has to be innovative. Probably go into more partnerships with the telcos. I've had discussion with some of the telcos. Some of them are willing to come on board. We should do more barter with them. I mean, it's still cost, but you're not paying physical cash for the data. But I feel that it is great. It's a very great innovation, the Zoom. Because, you know, sometimes you invite people over to your studio and they've come all the way, you're interviewing them, and you want that interview to be as crisp as possible. 2-3 minutes maximum. But because the person has come all the way, you have a reader, a presenter on air who feels, okay, let me go on and do another 10-15 minutes, and the rest of it is all trash. Really, they're not saying anything. That they've stated the most important aspect. If you have a Zoom interview, it saves you as well. 2 minutes, 1 minute, you're done, and the person is in the comfort of their homes. They don't have to come all the way. It saves the company money as well, because usually when you come around, you have to give honorarium to the guest. So now you are in your house and we're doing Zoom. Why should I give you TNT?
Exactly.
So you're saving costs. Yes, you're spending on data, but you're also saving some costs.
It's a brave new world in the media sector. Nana Barnamwa there. Now, there's more in the upcoming Outline documentary by Araba Kumson titled The Media, a Virus and Survival, which throw the spotlight on the impact of COVID-19 on the traditional media in Ghana. It's scheduled to be aired Monday, June 8. Now, let's take a look at the case count for COVID-19 today. Right, so we're looking at 8,548 confirmed cases as of today, and this is from the Ghana Health Service. 5,378 of those are active cases. 3,132 have recovered. Sadly, we've lost 38 people to the virus. Right, we've got more. Stay exactly where you are. We'll bring it to you right after these messages. You're welcome back. This is The Pulse. Now, the Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources, Cecilia Dapa, says the president's intervention to provide free water for Ghanaians has been a success. According to her, many of the underprivileged benefited from the president's initiative to give some relief to the public as a way of reducing the impact of COVID-19 on them. Now, she disclosed that when Duraplast donated some water reservoir tanks and their new innovation, mobile washing basins, to the ministry to help boost the efforts in ensuring the adherence of the hygiene protocols.
When the president was kind enough and fatherly enough to give us free water, the ministry carried it further to procure tanks, water tanks, to receive the water from the tankers. Why? Because we wanted the turnaround time to be shorter and also to dislodge the water into the community instead of people bringing receptacles and buckets to collect. So this one, we deposit the water into the tanks at various strategic places, and then the people in the catchment area will then take their time to go and do social distancing and collect water for their domestic use. And it's been hugely successful. So this will go to augment the efforts in that sector.
Last time we were
Now, if you're a big fan of the dairy product Fan Milk, but are concerned about how it's handled by vendors, here's some good news. The dairy manufacturing company Fan Milk is giving all of its agents and vendors sanitizers produced by the pharmacy at the University of Ghana Medical Center. On Thursday, the company distributed the sanitizers to the UGMC and Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Hannah Odame was with the team, and here's her report.
The School of Pharmacy made us aware that they could make hand sanitizer. So through this collaboration between a corporate entity and academia, we have come up with this product. And this is just a way of us saying thank you for all you do, thank you for all you're doing.
Director of Research and Innovation at FANICE, Oluranti Campbell, on why the University of Ghana Medical Center and the company collaborated to produce sanitizers. 200 liters of these products have been received by the Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
We are going to put this donation to good use with homegrown solutions like these locally made sanitizers. Most of our staff, as well as our patients, as well as all the COVID-19 protocols will be observed, particularly hand washing and use of sanitizers.
At the University of Ghana Medical Center, Dr. Darius Osei was hopeful the partnership between the two institutions will continue.
Most of these things are going to be the things we'll be using because COVID has come to stay. And I don't know the definition for post-COVID, as been said. Definitely we're going to have to learn how to live with it. And these are the things which will be required every day for us to do our work. We want to thank you very much, and then we appreciate it. We put them in good use. Thank you.
Head of Marketing at FANICE, Edwin Amwako, said all agents and vendors of the FANICE product are observing all safety protocols that are needed to ensure their safety as well as their consumers.
They're not supposed to sell it. We sponsor them to produce something locally, and this production is being donated not just to University of Ghana Medical. We are also going to use to give to our agents and our distributors to use to sanitize their places. So we basically are using everything that they produced.
For JoyNews, I am Hannah Odame.
Right now, some residents of the Buom Hills Valley in the Domikwabenya constituency are calling on authorities to fix the bad state of roads in their community. Now, they say they've been compelled to spend huge amounts of money on shock absorbers and tires because of the terrible state of the roads there. Maxwell Agbagba has more from the community.
It's a sprawling community, a developing community, but the terrible state of roads here is giving headache to the residents here. Not just them, but also commuters, persons who use this road daily. Well, these deep gullies you see run right in the middle of the road here.
The road the network is really bad. And as you might have spoken to other people, they would attest to the fact that it's really a bad road. It's quite a road that accessible road that you can even use through towards to Kumasi if you are going. So I don't see why we should always be at the receiving end in this regard. The road nature, is very bad. Now, we also have issues of security, and it's really affecting us as well.
Have you tried speaking to authorities, getting authorities to fix the road?
Yes, we've written several letters to this effect. We've written to the office, how do you call it, the opinion leaders, those who sold the land. We've spoken to them. We've even spoken we've written to the truck owners association, and the help is just not coming because we wanted them to at least assist us with, whatever they have to pour gravels, whatever on the road. We can't even grade whatever, but we're not getting it. The association has, through its own membership, got something small. Very little that can do a road. But at least we anytime we even start doing it, we realize that when it rains, that's the end of it. So it's a big issue, and the road network at Kwabenya has been done, but then we don't know why this aspect of the road has been left. And pregnant women cannot even commute the road to go to the health facility. So these are issues that are really bothering the area, and we want to seek the audience of the authorities to come to our aid to make sure that things are resolved properly.
Residents say all attempts to get the roads fixed have yielded no positive results. I've been speaking to some motor riders who frequent the stretch. They say residents have been compelled to use their service because the roads are in a terrible shape. We are told by residents that not even taxis would want to ply this route. Many of them would charge exorbitant prices just to get to this side of town. The residents are compelled to use motorbikes. Women, children, and men alike.
Yetimi anka ye papa free half Madina besi Maira ko si sam junction media nanso ma jai kwana ye basa anso penifo we bresisi da o area nanso aye basa anti SSA ye ho adwuma.
Okay, well, he's saying that the road has been left unattended. There are a lot of influential people who live in this community, but nothing has been done about the state of the road here. Well, she says that she's been compelled, they've been compelled and forced to use motorbikes to get to their destinations because cars do not ply this route. It is increasingly difficult to get a taxi or a car, so they have to resort to a motorbike. She says she's heading to the hospital and she has to sit on a motorbike to the hospital.
It's raining and it is exposing our roads more. Even without the rains, our roads are exposed. Now it's raining, our roads, we are getting so much trouble and so very difficult to get to our homes. Even no taxis are plying the road because they don't want to come. No, even the motorbikes who are using here are also complaining. We have a lot of problems, and the main challenge is the road. And now the rains have come in and they've made it worse. So we are appealing to the authorities to come to our aid, to help us, to assist us. As we are here, we have a residents association. From time to time, we rent bulldozers to come and grade the road for us. We contribute, we buy fuel into the bulldozer. As you can see, there's a bulldozer here. We just pay money and then they come and grade the road for us. But it's been ongoing for so long. Mostly, if we want to spend, we have to buy fuel because the vehicle belongs to a philanthropist. So we have to buy fuel, but in a day you are looking at around 2,000 Ghana cedis, 2,500 to get the road level. It's a very short stretch. It's a very short stretch of road, and it's a main road that leads from Kwabenya Obom Junction to Maira.
The residents attribute the problem to the heavy trucks that ply this route to cut rocks on the other side of this community. Well, they are saying that authorities need to move in quickly to solve the situation here. Many of them are worried that they have to spend a lot of money on shock absorbers, sometimes even on ties. Money going down the drain here.
The road, this is one of the worst roads in Domi Kwabenya constituency. And it is so bad that I mean, when it rains, you cannot do anything. It is something that we still don't understand, why the citizens here cannot be looked after, or attention cannot be brought in here for the roads to be fixed. I mean, even if it's once a while that the authorities are able to come here and then try to see if they can even get the road leveled for us to be able to ply it without having challenges. I mean, these are basic needs. It is everywhere. These are basic needs. It is like you building. If you are not able to do a good foundation, how do you put up the whole building? Give us a good foundation, because these are the same people who will be coming here during their elections, because it is to their own interest. They come here, they try to make sure we are okay to be convinced that vote for us, and then when we come, we can do something. It is not happening, especially when it rains. The trucks that ply this road, boss, you have no idea. It is so bad. We struggle every time to even get up there. Getting from my house to where the dead end of the third road is, I can take almost 15 minutes or 20 when it rains. That is so bad, and that is how bad the road is. Then, for me, it is not just the road. We were here one...
Very, very bad, very, very terrible. Me, myself, I'm a victim. One day, I was coming from work, so I have to start on the motor. It was raining, and all of a sudden, I find myself on the ground. And the next day, I have to be in the hospital for 3 days before I have to come home. So that's what I've been battling for almost about 15 years now. No car, no trotro, no taxi, no nothing. You only depend on motorbike. You're in Accra. And we're not far from Dominic Kobenya. We're not from Kobenya town.
I used my motorbike through the road because of I went to buy motorbike. The motorbike that I was using it to go around to talk to people, they came and steal the motorbike. And through that, because of that, I have to go with the town and go up and down and see my other executives. So we will see how we do to do the road.
Right now, former President Rawlings has been speaking on the new voters register as his party observes 41 years since the June 4 uprising. Now, he's asking Ghanaians to respect the mandate of the EC following his decision to create a new voters register. In a virtual meeting, the former president maintained that the answer to the backlash from the public is consultation with various stakeholders.
The Electoral Commission, which is the fulcrum of our multi-party democracy, must be supported and protected by all stakeholders to ensure a free and fair election and a peaceful society. That notwithstanding, it is equally important for that revered institution to ensure that the processes leading to this year's elections are done in consultation with the stakeholders of the nation to prevent unnecessary suspicion and promote a peaceful and cohesive society. An election is an event, but building a democratic, free and peaceful society is a process. So the debate surrounding the new voters register must be thoroughly examined so we do not undermine the successes we have chalked so far as a nation. In addition, the constitutional mandate of the Electoral Commission must be respected by all. While we work towards perfecting our electoral process, I urge you all to pursue and sustain our uniqueness as a country in the democratization process. The sanctity of the right of choice is not a matter we can compromise on.
Former president there, showcasing a rather unique new hairdo, looking a bit like Moses, I think. Anyway, let's go across to the Supreme Court now, because they've directed that the Electoral Commission provide a legal justification for refusing to allow the use of existing voters' identification card as one of the acceptable documents in the upcoming mass voters registration exercise. A 7-member panel of the court, presided over by Chief Justice Justice Eninia Boa, Thursday, June 4, gave the order during the hearing of a suit by the opposition NDC challenging the Electoral Commission's decision. Now, the NDC has described as unconstitutional the EC's decision to reject old voter IDs as a legitimate document for registering for a new one, alleging it will disenfranchise many. Let's go on Zoom now and speak with the communications director of the NDC, Sami Gyamfi. Mr. Gyamfi, thank you very much for your time with us, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Kojo.
Now, I think I may have got it wrong. It's a communications officer, am I right?
Yes, you're right, communications officer.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. So perhaps we'll start with your reaction to the news from the Supreme Court.
I think the directive of the Supreme Court is in order because the issue of the exclusion of the existing voters' ID card from registration identification documents in the new constitutional instruments the EC has laid before Parliament is the pivot of our case before the Supreme Court. The Attorney General and the Electoral Commission had argued that the CI has not matured and therefore we were not properly before the courts. But I think the indication from the Supreme Court today was that they will proceed to determine our case on its merits and have directed the Electoral Commission to file their statement of case detailing their reason, or if you like, legal justification for the exclusion of the voters' ID card. We are all waiting to see the arguments and the law the EC is relying upon to justify this grave injustice we are seeking to perpetrate against millions of eligible voters in this country. We are happy that at long last the matter has come up for hearing. It is our prayer that the process will transpire speedily so that we can settle this matter once and for all.
Now, the autonomy and independence of the EC is enshrined in our laws. No question about that from their perspective anyway. Do you not feel that they will find sufficiency in that law to make their legal arguments?
No, the EC is not autonomous. The EC, yes, is independent. Their independence is guaranteed by the 1992 Constitution. But as a creature of law, they are subject to law, and therefore our courts. And that is why, since the inception of this Fourth Republic and the 1992 Constitution, various acts and enactments promulgated by the EC have been tested in our courts. Some have been struck down by our courts as unlawful. Some of their actions have been declared unconstitutional, therefore null and void. And so the EC doesn't have absolute independence because their independence is subject to the jurisdiction of our courts. And so the fact that they are independent does not mean they can disenfranchise millions of eligible voters like they are seeking to do through this new CI they have made in Parliament and go on like that without any questions. We are determined to stop the Electoral Commission from treading on this dangerous path, which portends great danger for our democracy and the peace and stability of this country. Because like we all know, the right to vote is an inalienable right. It is a God-given right, which should not be violated under any circumstance. People have fought and died just to ensure that their right to vote, their right to self-determination, their right to universal adult suffrage is respected. And it will not be said that it was in our time, during our generation, that we allowed the Electoral Commission to erode the gains we have made, relative to the protection of the right to vote all these years in this country and even, across the world. And so what we are saying is simple. The existing voters' ID card has been upheld by the Supreme Court of Ghana in the case of Abu Ramadan versus the Republic, number 2. If you look at the ruling of a leadership, Georgina Wood, CJ Asher then was, she made it clear that the existing voters' ID card at any given time is the best prima facie evidence of one's eligibility to be registered as a voter. And that is law. That is what is called, judicial precedent, which per Article 11 of our 1992 Constitution, forms part of the laws of this country. And the EC is enjoined to respect that.
Right. Now, let's touch briefly on this. The very same day that the Supreme Court made this ruling, the founder of your party, which is the party that took the EC to the Supreme Court, the founder, former President Rawlings, says the EC should be supported to do its job. Do you see that to be a contradiction of what the NDC is seeking to do?
Not at all. In fact, the founder of the NDC could not have said it any better. We all have a civic responsibility to support the EC, deliver on its mandate, because we are all citizens and we have that responsibility under the Constitution of this country. But the issue then is, how do you support the EC to succeed? Supporting the EC to succeed doesn't mean that you say yes to everything they are doing. It means that when they are treading on dangerous or slippery paths, which portends trouble for this country, you master the courage to point out to them and ensure that the right thing is done. The way to support the EC is by insisting on the need for the EC to respect the conventions that we have used for our democratic experiment since 1992. In this case, stakeholder consultations through IPAC, which is what has brought us to where we are today, where we are celebrated across the world for our democratic credentials. And so if the EC is departing from the normal IPAC engagements, deliberations, which precede voter registration exercises, elections and all that, and are going about things in a dictatorial way, and in ways that suggest that they have an ulterior motive to disenfranchise voters and to rig the election for the incumbent, then it behoves on us in supporting the EC to point these things out. And that is why you would realize that after our founder, former President Jerry Don Rawlings, made a point that it is important for all stakeholders to support the EC, he added that notwithstanding, the EC would have to ensure that all stakeholders are consulted relative to its decision to compile a new voters register, and that the debate on whether or not Ghana needs a new voters register should be keenly, analyzed, for all of us to come up with solutions that...
Right. We seem to be having some difficulty with the connection there. We apologize. We seem to have lost Sami Jimfi. Now, the League of Concerned Christian Professionals in the northern region are calling on Christian organizations who have a stake in the peace and well-being of Ghana to rise and make their voices heard on the current raging issue of a new voters register. The group has described the compilation of a new voters register by the Electoral Commission as a needless venture. Chairman of the group, Andrew Dokurugu, addressed the media in Tamale today.
The register that the EC is so desperately trying to discard and replace is the one that brought the sitting president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and the present crop of parliamentarians to office. The outcome of that election that brought them to office has never been contested. The same register was employed not too long ago for the referendum leading to the creation of 6 new regions. The quality of that process was never debated. And most recently, the current register was used to conduct the massive local government elections to select assemblymen and unit committee members all over the country. All these exercises went through smoothly. Why then would anyone want to open up a mixed bag of controversy and uncertainties by scraping and replacing the current register? And for those who talk about bloating and space and memory, I am not an IT person. But even long before ICT advanced to what it is today, every ICT system has always maintained provisions for upgrade and for expansion. And I'm sure those who set up the previous system were not blind to such possibilities in the future. Timing. We have barely 5 months to the general elections with the numerous national challenges with regards to the social, cultural, and economic effects which have come along with COVID-19 pandemic. And let me also emphasize that when we're talking about getting a register ready, we are not just looking at December 7th. A register needs to be ready well in advance for certain preparatory processes to happen even before December 7th. So we even have less time than December 7th.
Now, the opposition NDC is cautioning the president against commissioning the Tema motorway expansion project without the involvement of the former president, John Mahama. The party alleges that there are attempts by the Akufo-Addo administration to take credit for the project, which was initiated by former President Mahama. Government is expected to commission the construction of the motorway flyover tomorrow. But at the press conference here in Accra, the NDC asked the government to invite former President Mahama for the ceremony. Amos Blessing Amose is the Deputy Regional Youth Organizer for the NDC.
Before the construction works on the first phase of the project could start, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the National Democratic Congress lost the election painfully in 2016. The project was that bequeathed to His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government. So this means Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo inherited the Tema motorway expansion project and the flyover at the roundabout from the NDC government led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. The Akufo-Addo government, having been briefed on the importance of the project and all the financial arrangements, cast sought for the construction work to start. These processes gave birth to the motorway flyover that the Akufo-Addo government intends commissioning tomorrow, June 5th, 2020. Even at the short-cutting ceremony, which was done by His Excellency the Vice President, Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia, there was no mention of President John Mahama as the brain behind the projects. We in the NDC are not unaware of schemes to credit the Akufo-Addo government as initiator of the project. The reason being that during the short-cutting ceremony, if the NPP government had at the back of their mind that they will credit His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC government for initiating project, they would have mentioned it. So if they are about to commission the project, we have every cause to believe that they have no intention to credit His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC government for initiating the project and also bequeathing it to them. But as has been stated, facts are sacred. No amount of fact twisting can change it. It will be recalled that when late President Professor John Evans Atta Mills inherited the George Walker Bush Highway from President John Ajekun Kufuor, he credited his predecessor for initiating the project and also showed statesmanship by inviting him to its commissioning. The NDC, and indeed Ghanaians, expect nothing short of this from President Akufo-Addo if he really believes honesty is a true virtue of a public officer. To be exact, we expect President Akufo-Addo to invite President John Dramani Mahama not only to the commissioning of the motorway interchange, but any other commissioning of projects he inherited from President John Dramani Mahama. In view of these facts, it is evidently clear that the said project was an initiative of President John Mahama at a time President Akufo-Addo, then opposition leader, and his MPP members were questioning the relevance of such project to the people of Ghana. With the foregoing evidence establishing a clear inheritance of such a project from a visionary leader, we expect President Akufo-Addo to espouse these virtues in these last days of his presidency as he prepares to commission the facility. As expressed in Article 35, Clause 7 of the 1992 Constitution, President Akufo-Addo must take steps to continue all projects started by John Mahama and publicly acknowledge his predecessor who bet the idea and place priority on the project motivated by its economic and social benefits to the country and the society.
Now, for our crossover to Germany this week, we discussed tourism as Ghana looks at boosting the sector with a cash injection. Europe is reactivating tourism. Germany has now had 2 long weekends to test internal travel. France has also begun allowing people to travel throughout the country, and Spain is discussing traveling between regions. Political correspondent with our partners Thomas Sparrow has been analyzing the situation with Gifty Ando Apia.
The latest announcement, Gifty, from the German government came today on Wednesday when it announced that it would be lifting its travel warning for the EU and other countries in Europe as of June 15th. And it will be changing that travel warning for travel advice for the specific countries. It's important to differentiate between a travel warning, which essentially tells people not to travel to a specific place, and a travel advice, which gives people the decision to make or not make that specific travel plan based on what the government considers appropriate. So it's a very different measure, a very different way of handling it if you consider travel warnings and travel advice. And the German government again has announced that it will be changing that. What this essentially means in practical terms is that the tourist sector can continue to reopen, and people will be allowed and will be able to plan their summer holidays in the European Union countries. Whether they do that, it's another matter, because we've already heard in different parts of Europe that even if people are allowed to do so, not many tourists are actually planning to travel to those countries given the current public health situation. So this is the latest from Germany, and it is not only here in Germany, in other parts of Europe, this is also being discussed and changed. And for example, Italy, well, you know that Italy was the first big European country to be particularly hit by the coronavirus. Italy, as of today, will allow again travelers from the European Union, and it lifted as well a ban on traveling between its different regions. So you can see step by step, in a phased way, European Union countries are taking measures to reopen the tourist sector, which is particularly important for the continent as a whole.
Thomas, I'd like to understand the trends. Which country is opening up to which one? And do we know why? Any special reasons?
Well, obviously there are different things to consider here, Gifty. One thing that has to be considered is the situation in each specific country when it comes to public health, because when you look at how the coronavirus affected the European Union, it did not affect every country in the same way. So countries like Spain or Italy or France or the United Kingdom were particularly affected by this in Europe, whereas others were not so badly affected. So when you look at that, many countries that have similar trends or have similar coronavirus situations have obviously tried to open up their common borders if they have some. But there has also been a warning that by doing so, you're essentially creating bubbles, if you will, where tourism can reopen and bubbles where tourism does not reopen. So that's why the European Union also tried to lay out plans for this to happen in a more or less coordinated way, even though it's particularly difficult. If you look, for example, at Germany and its border countries, Germany will, or at least plans to reopen its borders to most of its countries in the next few weeks. That includes Austria, for example, that includes Denmark, that includes other countries as well. And in some countries there are particular reasons and particular conditions as well. So something very important to understand in all of this, Gifty, is that we're not talking about a return to normal as you experienced many summers ago. There is a sort of new sense of normality, which means that people will have to accustom themselves to this new reality and also take precautions accordingly.
Whilst authorities decide to open up, as gradual as it may be, what is the update on the infection trends at the moment? Because that's an important part in making this decision.
It is not only one important aspect, it is the important aspect. And in fact, the German government, the German foreign minister, has said that Germany will continue to monitor how the situation develops, not only here in this country, but in other parts of the continent as well. And if numbers go up above a specific threshold, if numbers go up in specific regions, then the German government, and by the way other governments as well, can reissue some of those warnings, alerting people not to travel to a specific place if there is, for example, a second wave. However, if we look at current numbers here in the continent, you do see that in many countries those numbers have been dropping to a point that the countries can start, or at least continue, to reopen in many different aspects, and that one of those aspects is obviously tourism. If you look at tourism accounts to about 10% of economic output in Europe, and there are millions of jobs in Europe that depend on the tourist sector. And it is also important to stress that many countries that were particularly affected by the coronavirus pandemic are also particularly dependent on tourism. If you think, for example, of Spain, France, or Italy. So these countries were obviously very interested in trying to reopen their tourist sector as soon as possible, obviously maintaining precautions and limitations to try and make sure that the economic difficulties that come attached to all this crisis are reduced a little bit by the possibility of reintroducing tourism in different sectors that in many cases are dependent on them to a large extent.
Finally, Thomas, how are people responding or reacting to these new directives, if you like, in announcement?
For many Europeans, being able to travel in the summer is particularly important, not only because it's a tradition here, it's something that families tend to plan well in advance, but also for kids who are on summer holidays and who would be at home. Many kids, or at least most kids, have been at home for the past few months as well. So many Europeans do feel that being able to travel, even if it's within their own country, even if it's maybe in a different region, is something that will be very welcome. At the same time, as I said in my first answer, there is concern about how much Europeans will actually travel, because there are already hotels, for example, in various countries that have said that they're not going to open, even if they can, if at the same time people are not making any bookings or not traveling to those destinations. So it is something that is very, very sort of small, as I said, a phased start to tourism in the European Union, and what that has, on the one hand, many people obviously very happy about the prospects of being able to travel again. On the other hand, people conscious that the situation is still very difficult, that the coronavirus has not gone away, even if numbers are down, and that as such they will have to take specific precautions. And an additional element that I would like to add is that obviously for many families, the coronavirus crisis has come hand in hand with economic difficulties. So it is still very much open, very much in the air to what extent people will still have the capacity to travel abroad or even within their own countries after all these problems attached to the coronavirus crisis.
Let's take some more messages. We're back with more after these. Welcome back. Now, what could be worse than succumbing to a disease that will leave a breast rotting without any financial strength to help yourself? Being dragged out of the only place you know as home? Well, Agnes Dogbe, 43, has cancer in her left breast, a condition that keeps worsening by the day because she's unable to afford the requisite treatment. There's more in this report.
I'm at Weja Old Barrier here in Accra. I've come to see someone who has been trapped by poverty and imprisoned by disease. A 43-year-old mother of two who has been suffering from breast cancer for over a year can't breathe. Agnes, good morning.
Sorry. Here we are. Are you safe for the how many months? For some of the same thing. For more than
Papa cried, rejecting me.
Where then I wish I could
Oh, dear mommy. Many simple. And this card, mammy, name of Francis. You shall not buy a year and you may. 50 CDs. Oh, Madam. Menene on sitting baby, Miss Smithing baby. But I say, the affair who say, and you know, it's maybe a chumna, Menene bepe dine. I said, baby, all so it's a bepe dine one. I said, 4 to 5 months me tenenka na me ya na moto say me ba abehwe no already ade na ye no me di kan hu ahyase no ana enim say be ya ade bi a e ba be yesi ti ade no be ye ni se no asa me hu no be 2 to 3 5 months no me ba ha ana me be hu. In fact, Dano na arewakam. And I'm who send nipa ye mobopa. Because we are soon nim udabria edi. Timi be no na Dano kra de obedinu onibi.
Producer for this story, Daniel Dazi, joins me via Zoom for a conversation about this. Daniel, this is heartbreaking. Tell us, what's Agnes's current situation?
Kojo, we visited Agnes today, the prime morning team that is, and I'm happy to report that she's still responding to treatment. And of course, official treatment from the hospital has not started. She's scheduled to go to the hospital sometime over the weekend. We actually saw the very woman we just spoke to, Cecilia, with a close friend. She was there. She was taking care of her. She was washing clothes, trying to clean her up. Her condition is still very serious. Of course, it's less than our 3 days that we spoke to her. But she's beginning to get a little hope because the community that is responding and is forming around her is very overwhelming. So yeah, her condition is hopeful, but it's still quite dire.
Now her landlord wants her out. What's that about?
Her landlord says that, first of all, her rent expired. She paid for a year, and that year ended just a few months ago, while she was still in the throes of her pain. He says that because she's not gainfully employed and she's not making any income, she's unable to foot some of the bills that any compound house requires, like electricity, water, sanitation, cleaning of the bathrooms and what have you. And so he says that she's becoming a drain on the household financially. Also, he says he had an initial policy that barred him from taking people who are single and come and stay in the house. Now, of course, she's not single, but she's been abandoned by her husband, so she's practically single. So he says that, yeah, because of the financial drain, And she said in the past that she'd like to leave the apartment after her rent expires. So he wants her out, basically. But we prevailed on him to wait a little longer to see if we can, raise some funds and foot some of her bills or get her another place to stay.
No doubt many people have been touched by this story. For those who want to do something about it, how can they reach out to her?
Yeah, two very simple phone numbers, 0546 30 34 35. Simple. 0546 30 34 35. And 0202 516 515. 0202 516 515. Well, please ask that you text or send a WhatsApp message and let us know if you are interested in helping us.
Right. It's a great thing that you're trying to do for this lady. Thank you very much for that. Daniel Daze of Prime Morning on the Joy Prime channel. Thank you so much, Daniel. Yeah. All right. Well, it's been quite a show. I'm so glad you made the time to be with us. We're back tomorrow with even more on The Pulse. In the meantime, if you need your regular fix of news, you know where to go. myjoyonline.com has it all. Touch on it for all of the updates from around the world.